Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got a really good show set up for you today. I think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on gold, silver, copper, lithium, other metals, and I'm going to talk about some of the key market moving trends that I'm seeing, and then I'll go into a group of companies, the sponsors of my shows, and then I've got some non-sponsors that I want to talk about as well. So let's get right to it. I'm going to start with the price of the US dollar. The reason I always start with the price of the US dollar is because it has such a big impact on the prices of the metals that are priced in the US dollar. That's the most closely watched price for the sector that investors watch. So it's a big market mover. And I think you'll clearly see why that is the case when I bring up the gold price. So here you have the US dollar. And as you can see, it's trading below its 50-day moving average, quite significantly below the 200-day moving average. The 200-day moving average is now trending downward. The 50-day moving average is trading downward. And as I said, it's trading below the 50-day. So it had a death cross here. I think that this is the big trend that topped out in September, had quite a negative run until early February. Caught a bid when the when it looked like the employment numbers were picking up and the currency traders wanted to position as if the Fed was going to, go back to 0.75% moves. Then the banking crisis hit, and the Fed went back to 1/4 point moves. And I think it's on a precipice here and ready to go a lot lower. Conversely, you're seeing a similar trend with the US or the gold price. You see the 50-day moving or 200-day moving average is moving up quite significantly. And the 50-day moving average bottomed down here in November and has been on quite a tremendous run ever since. We got a golden cross here, trading significantly above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average, and has got significantly above the 2,000 per ounce recently, and has, it's been a pretty big gain from 1815 to over 2,000. Had a little bit of profit taking here. I think that's getting overdone, and it's ready for a stronger move. Big thing that I've been talking about lately is the three key reasons that I believe that gold is headed a lot higher. One of those reasons is the banking crisis. I think it's a long way from over. These kind of situations have a contagious effect. It's not just the Silicon Valley banks of the world that have problems with bank runs due to them holding a lot of bonds and also mortgage-backed securities. And the bailouts that needed to happen for the depositors, the actions of the FDIC, the Fed, and the Treasury, I think, are panic moves. I think that they see the writing on the wall that there's bigger problems coming. If the Federal Reserve holds the biggest position in those same assets that caused the problems with Silicon Valley Bank, and if they ever had to mark to market their assets, they would be underwater just as bad as Silicon Valley Bank. So the idea that they're able to backstop, all depositors or really fix the problem that they created after 14 years of near zero interest rates in from 2008 to 2022, and then jacking them up so much as if they didn't see that that would seize up the banking system and the whole economic system. It kind of makes you wonder about their economic models. But nonetheless, that's one key reason I believe the Fed. Another key reason I'm bullish on gold is I think the Fed has to stop raising interest rates. The estimates are that in May they'll do another quarter-point move. I think that they've significantly overdone it and are breaking things and have to stop breaking things. They've broken the housing market, broken the car market sales. They've broken other big ticket items. They've broken the consumer. The consumer is now living paycheck to paycheck and supplementing their needs by using their credit cards. And the average on the credit cards is about 19% interest rate now. All of these things cannot continue, and the Fed ignoring the problem that they created, I think only creates more of a problem that will result in them stopping to raise interest rates. And what a lot of people don't realize is that, it's not in the cards yet because of the hawkish comments by the Federal Reserve, is that not long after they stop raising interest rates, they're probably going to have to start their next rounds of quantitative easing because they're going to need to support the slowing economy and again try to deal with all the problems that they've created. And then another big thing that's becoming more documented in the media and amongst the analysts is the currency wars that are happening right now. China, Russia, and other countries are smelling that are seeing that the U.S. dollar is a wounded animal, and they're preying on it now. You can see that's happening with the countries that are in a rush to join the BRICS nations. I think that what ultimately will happen, I'm not making the comment that the US dollar is doomed to go out of business, but I think what will happen is that there will be competition. The Russians got sanctioned for the war in Ukraine, and they decided to do business in ruble, gold, and other currencies. And China is looking at the same thing. Other countries like Brazil and the oil nations are starting to do transactions outside the US dollar. And I think all of this says that the US dollar as a world reserve currency needs to have some competition. These countries are probably getting tired of selling their products in artificially high US dollars and then it looks like those US dollars are going to go down, so they're selling products in US dollars that is likely to go down, and that's not a good situation to hold US dollars for those countries. And they see the writing on the wall. They've been buying gold hand over fist since post 2008. And 2022 was their biggest year since then. And it looks like 2023 will be even bigger than 2022. So the central bankers are really showing their hand and to investors out there and backing their assets up. Instead of holding US dollars, they seem to want to hold gold more. And I don't blame them. With all of these things that are happening with the bank crisis and the actions by the Federal Reserve to try to break everything, it's no wonder they want to hold gold. And I think investors should be doing the same thing. If you want to protect your money, the best place to protect your money and protect it against inflation and all these other banking crises and currency wars is to hold gold instead and silver and other commodities instead of US dollars. And for the investor that wants to grow their money, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of generalist investors finding their way to precious and base metals. And you look at the precious and base metal stocks, and they're trading at at record lows. So they've got a lot of torque in them as these general investors start arriving into the gold, silver, and other metal space. When they find their way to the illiquid juniors and developers that have very undervalued valuations, it won't take much buying pressure from generals to drive the price of the stocks up quite significantly. Okay, I'm going to start, when I'm talking about these companies, I'm going in alphabetical order today. So the first company is Advanced Lithium, where I'm the CEO, president, and also a large shareholder. As you can see, we had a pretty significant breakout in February and had a golden cross in February, now trading slightly above the 50-day moving average. 50-day is quite significantly above the 200-day moving average, and both the 200-day and the 50-day are in a bullish trend. What caused this this movement here was that we announced that we are in discussions with the lithium, a national lithium company of Mexico called Lithium. We're talking to them about the possibility of creating a joint venture with them to develop our lithium projects in Mexico. And I hope to have more to talk about that on the not too distant future, as well as discussions that, or efforts that we're making to move forward with the lithium extraction method that we have the rights to use on our salt lakes in Mexico. It's now in operation, and the team of metallurgists are tweaking and optimizing that method. And I hope to have some news on that in the not too distant future as well. We also have an excellent project in Sonora, Mexico for gold and silver. It is near the Las Chispas mine of Silvercrest. And Silvercrest has very low cost of production there and very high grade. They're mining epithermal veins. We have two large epithermal veins on our project that have been underexplored with drilling. The 5-kilometer vein has only seen 5 holes drilled into the vein and had very similar grades to what was in the outcropping part of that vein on the surface. And so I think it's reasonable to argue that the drilling has not drilled into the boiling zone, or some call it the bonanza zone of an epithermal vein. The 2-kilometer vein has only seen 1 hole. And again, a similar situation that it likely has not drilled into the to the boiling zone of that epithermal vein. And not too long ago, we also added a 170 square kilometer property in the Bathurst mining camp of New Brunswick. This is a very exciting project for us because it had seen historical work back in the 1950s, 60s, and that work generated some non-compliant resources. These were done before the National Instrument 43101 reporting standards were established. So it's what you would call a non-compliant resource, although it was done with good work and we can use that in our future work. We have to refer to it as non-compliant. One of those resources is 25 million tons at the Canoe Landing Lake, and has zinc, copper, gold and silver in it, and it's a VMS that the technical reports have suggested that this is the debris flow from a main massive sulfide VMS. Debris flow is like if you've seen a volcano with the lava that flows off of it. If you go farthest away from the vent of the volcano, that is the debris flow. And these VMS deposits are very much similar. But what's very exciting is if the debris flow is that big, it suggests that the VMS, the volcanic event that it came from, is very big. And so I'm excited about getting work done to see if the geophysics can light up a target near that. We've also got epithermal veins on the project that the drilling by Wolfton, who we optioned the property from, has already intersected the boiling zone with bonanza grades in it of those epithermal veins, and we mean to continue to expand on those. We also have a very large package of land near the big Brunswick 12 and Brunswick 6 mines. At Brunswick 12, it was one of the world's largest VMS deposits, and we have a very underexplored piece of ground in the same kind of rocks as what hosted both the Brunswick 12 and the Brunswick 6. In our northern claim blocks of that overall package, we have an area that has several resources on it, as well as a cluster of VMS boulders that had very high grade, and the source, the bedrock source, has never been found. So we want to do some geophysics up there that will help us to light up targets, I would hope. So collectively, we've got quite a group of assets, and yet we still only have a $4 million valuation. I think that makes for a compelling potential to valuation scenario. And I would ask you to check the company out. Next up is Athena, and unfortunately, Stock Charts doesn't cover my Athena. So I'm going to go back to the gold price while I talk about Athena. Athena is a company that's in the west part of Nevada, and what they've drilled into there is very high grades for an oxide gold system. It's actually bonanza grades for an oxide gold system. A lot of those oxide systems these days are under half a gram, and these are what they've found is several grams and even over 10 grams in 3 drill holes. And these 3 drill holes are kind of sandwiched in between 2 faults. These faults are how the metals bearing fluids make their way up to surface. More evidence that they have a big system is that when those metals bearing fluids make their way up to the surface, they interact with the country rock and they chemically alter that country rock. And in between these 2 faults is a very large alteration zone, and they drilled on one part of that alteration zone, and that's where they hit 3 holes with excellent grades in it. The company is in the process of raising some money and to get back in there and start drilling aggressively again. And I think they could have a very large oxide gold system with exceptionally high grade in their future. I invite you to take a look at Athena. Arizona Silver is a new sponsor that just started up recently. And I'm very excited to have this company on because Yale Simpson, who I've had experiences with in the past when he ran Exeter and Extore, both of those companies were bought out, and I covered them from very early in their success. And he's on my mining Hall of Fame. he is part of the team. He's one of the advisors to Arizona Silver. And Arizona Silver is in Arizona, and they've got an epithermal vein system that all of their drilling so far seems to be in the above the boiling zone or bonanza zone of an epithermal vein system. But they've been, even in that upper portion, they've been getting very good hits of gold and silver. And the really exciting part is when they start drilling deeper and get into that boiling zone or bonanza zone of an epithermal vein. They have a bunch of holes that are pending right now. So I'm looking forward to those results. Also, not long after they became a sponsor, I did an interview with Yale Simpson. I would invite you to check that out. Looking at the technicals, they had a golden cross here in January. Lately, the 200-day moving average has turned very bullish. The 50-day moving average turned bullish several months ago. The stock is trading significantly above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. And as I said, they have these results pending. So this company has a lot of catalysts. They've got pending results. They've got new drilling upcoming. They've got a gold price that I think is going to be very bullish for a lot of gold and silver stocks. And so this company is full of catalysts to move the valuation. And, they've been significantly outperforming their peers. And I think there's good reason for that. It's the quality of the project that they have. And their valuation is only $33 million Canadian right now. So I think they're about to unlock a lot of shareholder value. I think they're very reasonably priced considering what they have. And I think you're going to see some more excellent performance out of this company. And I'm really glad to have them on as a sponsor, as it'll give me a chance to do a lot of interviews. The next interview, I suspect, will be after they announce their pending results. And I'll get their CEO as well as their key geological person in Greg Hahn on a show to talk about their results and what they're doing with the project. So Arizona Silver is another one for you to check out. Next, I'll move up to Blackrock Silver. Blackrock Silver, I just did an interview with their chairman last week, and I think this is a very undervalued situation for a few reasons. One, they're involved with lithium. They have a partnership where the partner is spending all the money to earn into their lithium project. And the results so far are very encouraging. Blackrock had done some drilling with reverse circulation drills, and then Tierlac, their partner, came in and did core drilling, and the grade was significantly higher. So that's a very encouraging situation, and it looks like that deposit can be very big. They have other bigger companies around them that are also drilling into similar kind of lithium deposits. And so these guys are exposed to lithium, but then their key assets are gold and silver. In Tonopah, they have a cluster of epithermal veins. They've done their maiden resource calculation. What excited me about the resource is that they have a grade and a size that's very similar to Silvercrest's early maiden resource on their Las Chispas mine. And Las Chispas is an exceptional mine that went into commercial production just a few months ago. And I think it's one of the best mines out there. And Blackrock Silver has a very similar situation and doing a lot more drilling to expand on that resource. And they're also doing some studies that suggest that maybe some of the material that didn't make it into their past resource estimate should have, and they're doing some modeling that could add to their resource quite significantly. I talked to Andrew Pollard about this in our recent interview that you can find on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. Another exciting silver and gold project that they have is they're called their Silver Cloud project. A few months ago, they came out with news that they had drilled into the bonanza zone, or the boiling zone of an epithermal vein at Silver Cloud that returned 70 grams of gold and 600 grams of silver. That is clearly in the boiling zone of an epithermal vein, which is an important milestone for an epithermal vein. Now, once you know you've hit the boiling zone, now they can expand along strike and at depth of that boiling zone. And another thing that it gives you understanding of is that a lot of times these epithermal veins come in clusters and in close proximity to other. So they've got one, probably have more. And if they find more in that area around where they had this bonanza hits, they know the level that they have to go to in order to find the boiling zone of any new epithermal veins that they found. So this company, I believe, is very oversold. They've come off the bottom here. Let's say the bottom was about 27 cents. They're trading below the 50-day moving average. I think it's tremendously oversold, considering the quality assets they have, and that they only have a $65 million valuation right now. And they've got plenty of catalysts. This is a catalyst-rich company. I think one of the key catalysts will be gold and silver getting stronger, which is happening now, and I think will continue to happen. Plus then more work from all of their projects and more news. So do your homework on Blackrock, because I think it's a very compelling story. Now I'm going to move on to Dynasty Gold. Dynasty is in the process of doing a private placement. That the lead order is Rob McEwen. I think that's a very bullish thing, because Rob McEwen understands orogenic gold systems as well as anybody in the gold mining business. The reason I say that is he ran Gold Corp when it was found and then mined their orogenic gold system in Red Lake, Ontario. Now, Dynasty is not very far from Red Lake in a town called Dryden, Ontario. They're checking off all the key boxes to make a very important discovery. In these orogenic gold systems, you need those greenstone belts. They have that on the property. You need structures, because these deep crustal faults are the path of least resistance that the gold-bearing fluids make their way up. The most important evidence that they're on an impressive orogenic gold system is they're only down a couple hundred meters, and these orogenic gold systems can go down several thousand meters. And but in their shallow drilling, they've already hit on 4 holes that they recently announced that caused this big spike in the price. They've hit 4 high grade to bonanza grade hits in 4 holes, and they all seem to be connecting the dots and pointing deeper, which is exactly what you want to see in an orogenic gold system. The fact that they're at an exciting point in that is that they're still very high in the system, where you tend to get the fine grained gold in the upper part of the system. yet they've got up to 261 grams of gold over 1.5 meters. So even in the distal portion of the orogenic gold system, they're getting bonanza grades that are quite exceptional. And now they're doing this financing led by Rob McEwen that will allow them to get back in there and keep following that gold, that bonanza to high-grade gold deeper. And also another interesting part is they got 4 holes that are kind of the high-grade to bonanza-grade gold is lining up quite nicely and dipping downward. And then just below that, about 50 meters below that, they've got more bonanza grade gold. So it looks like they've got 2 zones, I guess this is a better way, 2 zones that are going deeper. And their next rounds of drilling will target those 2 zones and deeper, following it deeper. So a very exciting story and a very exciting project and results, and lots of good news coming up for the company. I think the next big news will be the closing of the private placement that is being worked on right now. I'm participating in that because I'm very bullish on this story. I love orogenic gold systems, and I love a bonanza grade gold, especially when there's continuity to it, which they've already established with 4 holes. So that's the Dynasty Gold story. Next up is Galantas. Galantas is a sponsor of the show, as are these other companies that I talked about earlier. And Galantas is also in an orogenic gold system in Ireland. I just had an interview out with their CEO, Mario Stefano, recently, that you can find on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, or on Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And what we talked about as far as their orogenic gold system goes is that they've got, again, they're in the upper distal portion of an orogenic gold system, but they're already hitting high grades. Now, that's what happens in these orogenic gold systems is, as you're at the top of the system, you're farthest away from the heat engine that caused that gold mineralization to make its way to surface. And the tendency is that you find fine-grained gold in the top part of the system. But as you follow it deeper, you get into the more coarse gold, and the grades go off the charts. And I think that's what they have in their future. The reason that I say that is they've got several veins that are in close proximity to each other and hitting excellent grades. And there's these dilation zones that are all seem to connect and pointing deeper. Dilation zones are where the zone will open up, and where it opens up, you get more pooling of the gold, the zone. And these dilation zones are all lining up. Another important factor is that just to the immediate south of these tightly packed area of veins, or orogenic veins, and it looks like that is the plumbing system that the fluids made their way up to. So I believe what is going to happen is, as they get deeper, those veins or zones are all going to come together. And as they come together, they're going to be hitting the more coarse gold in an orogenic gold system. So I think they've got home run potential written all over them for their orogenic gold system. But then not too long ago, they added a VMS system in Scotland to their portfolio, and they're going to be drilling that right away as well. And this VMS system looks very exciting also, because it's a gold and copper rich VMS, and it's wide open for exploration. I'm very excited to hear more about that. Yeah, check out that interview I did with Mario Stefano to learn more about Galantas, which only has a $43 million Canadian valuation. And I believe with all the catalysts that they have on their gold project alone, that they can blast off to a much higher valuation. But then they got that wild card in their VMS system in Scotland that's quite exciting as well. So stay tuned for more out of Galantas. Okay, next is another sponsor, Golden Lake Exploration. They are in Nevada, in very close proximity to I-80 Gold. And I-80 Gold has been having tremendous success with the discovery of a bonanza grade CRD system, as well as gold, Carlin type gold on their property. What's interesting about the CRD is got an overprint of very high grade to bonanza grade gold in the same system as their CRD, and that usually doesn't happen. So because what I think has happened is the metals bearing fluid that brought the CRD and the gold mineralization followed the same cracks in the earth up towards the surface. And that's why you're getting CRD and bonanza grades of gold to high grade gold in that system as well. They recently gave an update, and it sounds like they're hitting a bunch of mineralization. Or sorry, I-80 Gold has announced that they've been doing a lot of drilling and announced more mineralization. So that's a very exciting story. Then if you follow the faulting down to the south, you run into Golden Lake Exploration's ground. And on Golden Lake, there had been a bunch of historical drilling or historical mining of CRDs as well. And so that's evidence that this is a highly prospective property. The surface sampling has also suggested that. Then importantly, they've also drilled into grades that are very similar to what I-80 Gold has found. On their property, they hit bonanza grade gold and a CRD. So it looks like it's the same story as what's happening on I-80 Gold's ground. It is also happening on Golden Lake's ground, which is not, I think, about 8 to 10 kilometers from I-80 Gold. So Golden Lake has an exciting project. They've been sort of flatlining of late. They had a nice move in November to January, been kind of trending sideways since then, trading right at the 50-day moving average, above the 200-day moving average. They're getting ready to do geophysics to tighten up their drill targeting, and then they'll start drilling. And I'm very optimistic that they're going to get a lot of excitement because of what I-80 Gold is doing as their neighbor to the north. Is finding these bonanza grade CRDs with a combination of your CRD mineralization and your overprint of high grade gold. Golden Lake has already drilled into one of those systems, and it's wide open to drill deeper below that. And I think they've got a great situation on what they've already drilled into, and the potential to find more. And I go back to what I was talking about on I-80 Gold. They have the faulting is very important, and the faulting goes all the way from I-80 Gold's ground all the way through Golden Lake's ground. And that faulting is the cracks in the earth that allows the CRD and bonanza and high-grade gold to make their way up and combine into one deposit. And Golden Lake has one of those situations in drilling and evidence to find more around that. So I'm very optimistic about Golden Lake. I'm also an advisor to the company, and they are a sponsor. And the company only has a $7 million valuation. The next company up is a brand new sponsor called Goliath. Goliath is Goliath Resources. Here's their stock chart. They're up in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. And as you can see from the chart here, the stock is quite significantly undervalued. They recently, just in the last 10 days or so, became a sponsor of my reports. And I just put out a written report on them this weekend. And they have a very compelling story, and yet they only have a $59 million valuation. And I think that that is tremendously undervalued. The evidence so far is that, and you can read this in my report, they've got this stacked sheets of gold mineralization. Now, that 97% of their holes have hit gold mineralization. And the average thickness is about 6.5 grams, and or the average thickness is over 6 meters, and the average grade is over 6 grams. And their main sherbet zone is 1.6 square kilometers. And then right above that, they have more zones that they've drilled into. And I recommend you go look at that article that I wrote on the weekend about Goliath, because it shows you that the model of that mineralization. Now, another picture that I included in that article is you can see the faulting that goes right from one side of the mountain up to the top and down the other side. And on the other side, there's also another fault that comes from the northeast. And these all come together at the bottom of the sheets of mineralization. And so what it looks like is that not only are the zones that they've already hit in the mountain open and pointing towards where these faults come together at the bottom of the mountain, and that's where these faults all come together. So what that suggests is that the fluids that got this gold mineralization up into these stacked layers is associated to that faulting. Now, they also put out a technical report, a study that one of these scientific studies that suggests the same thing as what you can see in the zones of mineralization and the faults, that there's a deeper source that is the metals bearing fluids came up from deeper. Okay. Now, another exciting thing is that they have satellite targets around their sherbet area, and the belief in that scientific paper is that this deeper source likely is the source of the satellite targets as well. And you can already make the argument that the gold mineralization that they've already hit in the sherbet zone and the layers above it, it came from a very big, powerful, high-grade mineralizing source. And now you've got this other evidence that there's more to the story, and just on what they have alone at the sherbet area suggests that they could be looking at a 2 to 5 million or more gold ounce discovery there. Another thing they did is metallurgical work. And so with the metallurgical work, they found that the recoveries are quite exceptional using very simple and easy recovery methods to get that. And I noted that in the article that I wrote about them as well. And so, you know, the question that I often hear, and I think it's not a correct question, but a lot of times you'll hear, well, why didn't somebody else find it? And the reason that I think that you got to take that with a grain of salt is because there's been studies by major mining companies that, it's usually the sixth or seventh company in a project that makes the discovery of a mine. So 6 companies before the 7th went in there and sort of failed, and then the 7th one came along to make the discovery. But what's interesting about this company is that they're the first in there. And the reason that they're the first in there is because this property used to be covered by glaciers. And those glaciers have been melting, and they exposed this excellent rock. And that's what led their team to make this discovery. And they have an excellent team involved with this company, and they're doing great work in their modeling and their drilling. And the success rate that they've had with their drilling, I think, is an indication that the predictability of the gold mineralizing system is excellent, and that they know what they're doing and they know how to keep following it. And all things are pointing towards where at the bottom of the mountain, where the zones are open and those faults all come together, is a very exciting area. And I think it will be a major focus of their upcoming drilling. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to invite them on for another show to talk about their plans going forward. But at the end of the day, you've got a company here with a $59 million valuation, trading right near its 52-week lows. And I think that they've got the catalysts to make new 52-week highs right in front of them, with drilling on their property to follow up on the Sherbet drilling, and maybe get into some of those satellite targets. And then with a stronger market for gold, that's another important catalyst as well. So Goliath, have a look at Goliath. I think they're very undervalued. Okay, i-80 Gold is one of my top picks. They're a company with a $800 million valuation, and I believe they have the assets to grow into a multi-billion-dollar company. It's not very often that you find a $500 or $800 million company that you can make a strong case that they could be a 5 to 10 bagger in the not too distant future. And the reason that I make that argument is the quality of the projects that they have. At Granite Creek, they look like they have a world-class gold property that has the potential to be very big. It's in the same kind of rocks and the same kind of structural story as the not too far to the north of them is the Turquoise Ridge deposit. That is a 25 million ounce gold mine. So they're definitely an elephant country, and they're drilling to expand to the north in their South Pacific zone, is finding thick zone of mineralization that as you get deeper into it, you're getting higher grades. The depth is open, and it's open to the north as they keep moving towards Turquoise Ridge. So that's a multi-million dollar gold or multi-million ounce gold target that they have on their hands. Then at their Ruby Hill project, they've found a bonanza grade CRD with an overprint of high grade to bonanza grade gold. And I was talking about them earlier in the show, and basically what happened is you've got these faults that are cracks in the earth that the metals bearing fluids make their way up into it, using that as a path of least resistance. And now at Ruby Hill, they've got the combination of two styles of mineralization, the CRD, bonanza CRD, and the high grade to bonanza grade gold, having followed those same faults to make their way into these deposits, which makes the rock value just off the charts. When it comes to in situ rock value, you're looking at values in the thousands of dollars per ton, which makes it one of the most important new discoveries anywhere in the world for any kind of metal. And they're right now, they've kind of been thin on news, and I think that has to do with the fact that they made an offer to take over their neighbor to the south, which is Paycore Minerals. And that deal will be finalized in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And as it gets closer to doing that, I think you're going to see a lot of news from the drilling that I-80 has been doing at Ruby Hill over the last few months. They recently had an update to the shareholders, and in that update, they made plenty of references to finding new mineralization on their property. I think that they're making the case that they're going to have very high grade results from that new mineralization that they're finding. I-80 Gold is consolidating around the Eureka camp, Ruby Hill, and the FAD deposit that Paycore owns. And I think there's very good reasons to do that, because they're both finding, both Paycore and I-80 Gold have found bonanza CRDs with a combination of CRD mineralization and high grade to bonanza grade gold mineralization in the same system. Very exciting situation. And then you look at the other mining infrastructure that I-80 Gold has, and you could, well, I can make the argument that just to replace the mining facilities that they have would be a couple times their current valuation. So this is a really undervalued story with a tremendous future ahead of it. And that's why I think they could get over a 5 billion to even over up towards a 10 billion valuation in the next few years. And I really look at them as being a cornerstone holding for investors that want exposure to gold. This is quite a story in I-80 Gold. Okay, Masivo Silver, MASS, is also in Nevada, and they're early into a new discovery in eastern Nevada that looks quite exciting. The historical production on the property was very high grade, kilos worth of silver, very high grade gold, copper mineralization, and it had been sort of a fragmented project that didn't really see much in the way of work after the Second World War, when the mining stopped on that project. But these guys have the project now. They recently had some very good results out from their first hole of drilling at the project. I think that they've got a early days of an important discovery here. In fact, I recently did an interview with their chief CEO and their head of exploration, their key geologist, and he's a really impressive guy. He was involved with mine finders and knows how to make discoveries that turn into big buyouts, which is what happened with mine finders back in the 1990s, or maybe in the early 2000s. I can't remember. But Brian Brewer is a top-notch geologist, and I did an interview with him, and we talked about the merits of this project at length. And I think you should take a look at that interview that you can find on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And it's a very impressive story, but they only have a $4 million valuation, which is quite incredible to me. They bottomed here at around 12 cents. They've been going up on light volume since. They're trading right now at around the 50-day moving average. And I think with the quality of this project that they're very undervalued today. And as they do more work and more investors get interested in gold and silver stories, as I believe gold and silver are headed much higher. Masivo Silver has a very compelling story, and as I said, a $4 million valuation. Okay. Next up is Sokoman. Sokoman Minerals is they've got a combination. They've got an orogenic gold system at their Moosehead project in Newfoundland. And then they also have a joint venture on what looks like a very compelling lithium project in Newfoundland. And they're not getting much in the way of love for the quality of those assets right now, trading at the 52-week lows, and a $37 million valuation. I believe that they've gone through the seminal moment for an orogenic gold system discovery, in that they've hit the bonanza gold in their recent drilling back here. I believe it was back here they announced it and went on a pretty good run, but yeah, it's been suffering ever since it topped out in February and went through a death cross here. And often when they go through a death cross, they can get very oversold, which I think has happened now. Okay. So to get out of that oversold condition, you need catalysts. They've got drilling on the orogenic gold system, and they're getting ready to drill on the lithium project. The lithium project is in the very early stages, but in their earliest drilling, they've already found what I think is an excellent new discovery that's going to lead them to a lot of success. And lithium in Canada has a lot of people's attention these days because of it's got all the hallmarks of Australia. You've got the right kind of ages of rock. You've got lithium in these hard rock deposits. Canada is quite a bit behind Australia in their exploration of these kind of deposits, but I think it's up and coming story for lithium mining. And I think you'd be well advised to take a look at Sokoman. I think they're very oversold right now, and plenty of catalysts to see them get over this current $37 million valuation. All right, the next company up is also a new sponsor that came in about a month ago or so, which is Summa Silver. I'm very bullish on Summa Silver. They've got this project down in New Mexico called Mogollon, and it's got some spectacular high-grade silver in that system. I think that they've got a really big discovery on their hands. I did an article about them not too long ago that you can find on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And in that, I included the cross sections of what they've drilled into, a table of results of what they drilled into. Since that article last week, they had some results out. And again, very exceptional high grade. And it looks like they've got a very exciting discovery on their hands at their New Mexico project. And now they've also got this excellent project in Tonopah, in Nevada. They're on the eastern side of that big belt of important discoveries there, and they have excellent past results from drilling at their Hughes project. They called it the Hughes project because at one time the famous Howard Hughes owned the project, and it was a very prolific mining camp in Tonopah. And these guys got the eastern side of that, and their past drilling has showed that they have exceptional high-grade gold and silver. And then they did some geophysics that shows them where to go to expand on that. And they're about to start that drilling on the Hughes project in Nevada very shortly. So then they'll drill that away and then get back onto Mogollon and have results from the Hughes project in Nevada and more drilling and results from the Mogollon project. And this company only has a $62 million valuation, and I'm a junkie for high grade gold and silver systems, and that's what they've got on 2 projects. It's very rare to find a company with one of these kind of projects, let alone 2 of these kind of projects in one company, and that's why I believe that they're a very compelling story. And with lots of catalysts. They've got catalysts coming from Nevada on the Hughes project. They've got catalysts coming from Mogollon, and we've got the big catalyst, which is gold and silver getting stronger. And I believe we're about to start seeing a lot more generalist investors coming into the metals, precious metals, and base metals space. And when they do that, they're going to find some very compelling stories with very cheap valuations. And, it won't take a lot of generalist investors to drive up a lot of these junior mining stocks. And I think Summa Silver is one of those compelling stories that will do very well. All right, now I'm going to go to Timberline. Earlier, I talked about the Eureka camp that i-80 Gold and Golden Lake are involved with, and Timberline is also in that area, and yet they've got a very cheap valuation, $19 million valuation. What makes that cheap is that they've already got a resource that they're developing, and it looks like it's got the potential to be very big. The reason that I say that is the footprint of the resource is already quite substantial. And if you look at the direction of the mineralization, the direction of the rock packages, the direction of the faulting, it's all pointing towards this very large geophysical anomaly. And that is the likely source of what caused the gold mineralization in the resource. And I believe that when they get into that big geophysical anomaly, they're going to have a very big discovery on their hands. That will be the kind of thing that brings a lot of attention to their stock with their $19 million valuation. Now, right beside i-80 Gold, they've got a project called New York Canyon. And it looks like it has the potential of being something like what i-80 Gold has found, which is a bonanza CRD with an overprint of high-grade gold and to bonanza-grade gold. And that makes for very high value in situ rock. Now, at New York Canyon, there had been historical mining of CRDs on that property. And then they did a bunch of surface sampling, and they got the right kind of mineralization, gold and the CRD metals. And I think there's lots of evidence that they're going to make a big discovery up there at New York Canyon. And they're going to be drilling that fairly soon here. In fact, that will be the first of their drilling in 2023 on their projects. They've got the New York Canyon, and then the resource to do more drilling on. And so I think they've got the potential to make an important discovery at their New York Canyon project in the not too distant future. So take a look at Timberline. All right, the last of my sponsors is Walker River Resources. They're very undervalued here with a $7 million valuation. Stock not far from their 52-week low. Why I'm so bullish on Walker River Resources is because they're in Nevada in the Walker Lane trend on the west side of Nevada. And at their La Pon Mountain project, they have the historical mining and their own drilling has shown that they've got this wide area, big area of high grade to bonanza grade gold in the system. From side to side in the mountain, it's about 600 to 700 meters. And from top to bottom, you're looking at about another 800 meters. And so there's widespread gold mineralization throughout this Lapon Mountain. In addition, there's a faulting, a network of faulting that is coming down the mountain and seems to coalesce at the bottom of the mountain where there is a cross-cutting big fault. And when the metals-bearing fluids make their way up these faults, they chemically interact with the country rock and they alter that rock. It's called alteration. And inside of this area where they have all this gold mineralization and this faulting is a big area of alteration. And at the bottom of the mountain, where all the faults come together, is the most intense alteration. And then you go to the other side of the canyon, and that faulting and that alteration continues. So this is all suggestive of a very big and powerful gold mineralizing system. And those kind of things are not easy to find. This definitely puts them in the category of a 2 to 5 million ounce gold target on their hands. And yet they only have a $7 million valuation and not getting a lot of love here. If I'm correct that gold is headed a lot higher and a lot of generalist investors are going to come to the gold exploration space, a lot of them are going to find their way into Nevada. And when they come to Nevada, they're going to find a few companies that are worth looking at. I'm fortunate to have a bunch of those companies as sponsors of my shows, and I get to put out lots of content. And Walker River Resources is definitely one of those Nevada-focused gold exploration companies that have drilled into what looks like a very large system, and yet the stock is very undervalued. It's not going to take a lot of generalists coming into the space and buying up these stocks to drive them considerably higher. Right now, they're trading at about 19.5 cents. Their high was around close to 60 cents. So they're quite substantially on sale. And I believe that they are an excellent performer in the making and very cheap here. Now, earlier when I started my show, I had planned on talking about some of other than my sponsors, but this show has taken a little bit longer, so I'm going to have to do a follow-up show in the next day or two, and I'll talk about some of my picks that have compelling stories. And I also have a new sponsor that I might have had some commentary out about them before I do my next show. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. I'm not making buying or selling recommendations. You have to speak with your financial advisor before making any investment decisions, and do your homework. Great place to do that homework is on my YouTube channel. I talk about all of my sponsors. I do interviews with all my sponsors, and that's a great place to start your homework. Another great place is go to their websites, check out their news releases, check out their corporate presentations. That'll help you understand the companies. And the reason that I'm always promoting investors to do their homework is I believe that will make you make a logical investment decisions based on value and have reasonable timeframes for those companies to have success. And it's that kind of investing that has always led to the best performers that invest in these kind of stocks. And that's what I think you should do as well. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.